First contact in the dark. Dr. Elena Santos hadn't expected to make first contact with an alien civilization during a routine geological survey of Martian cave systems. Yet here she was, staring at crystalline structures that definitely hadn't formed naturally, their surfaces etched with patterns too precise to be anything but artificial. "Houston, are you seeing this?" she breathed, adjusting her helmet camera to capture the formations that stretched into the darkness of the cavern. The structures pulsed with a faint blue luminescence that seemed to respond to her presence. "Confirmed, Dr. Santos. Maintain position and continue recording." Mission Control's voice crackled through her comm, trying and failing to sound calm. Elena checked her oxygen levels. Still 4 hours remaining. More than enough time to document this discovery that would change human history. She took another careful step forward, her boots crunching on the Martian soil. The crystalline formations suddenly flared brighter, and Elena froze as patterns of light danced across their surfaces. Not random reflections, these were symbols, cycling through what looked like mathematical sequences. They're equations," she whispered, her scientific mind automatically trying to decode the patterns. "Universal constants, pi phi, the fine structure constant." The implications hit her like a physical force. This wasn't just evidence of alien intelligence. This was a message, deliberately left in a form any technologically advanced species could understand. A new pattern emerged, different from the others. 3-dimensional coordinates appeared, pointing to a location deeper in the cave system. Elena checked her map. The coordinates led to a chamber her initial scans hadn't been able to penetrate. "Houston, I'm seeing what appears to be navigational data. Requesting permission to investigate further." The delay in Mission Control's response told her they were debating the risks. Finally, "Proceed with extreme caution. Dr. Santos, maintain constant communication." Elena followed the glowing trail, her heart pounding. The passage narrowed, forcing her to duck under crystalline archways that hummed with energy. The air grew noticeably warmer, unusual for Mars, and her instruments detected increasing levels of electromagnetic activity. The passage opened into a vast chamber, and Elena's breath caught in her throat. Suspended in the center was a massive crystalline sphere, at least 30 meters in diameter. Unlike the other structures, this one pulsed with internal light, creating the impression of something alive. As she approached, the sphere's surface rippled like liquid mercury. A voice echoed in her mind, not in words but in pure concepts. "We have waited long for those who could understand." Elena stumbled backward, her scientific training warring with the impossible fact that something was communicating directly into her thoughts. "Do not fear. We are the Meridians. We chose this place to wait, knowing your kind would eventually reach it. There is much to share, and little time." "Little time?" Elena asked aloud, her voice shaking. "Why? What's coming?" The sphere's light darkened momentarily, conveying a sense of ancient dread. "They hunt conscious life across the galaxies. We fled them long ago, seating ourselves among promising worlds, waiting for species with the potential to help us face them. Your people, you think differently than any we have encountered. You may be our last hope." Images flooded Elena's mind. Vast ships that devoured worlds, a war that spanned millennia, and a desperate plan to hide and wait for allies with the right qualities to help turn the tide. "But we're barely a spacefaring species," Elena protested. "We've only just reached Mars. How could we possibly help? Your limitations are your strength. You think in ways we cannot, see possibilities we are blind to. Already your mind forms patterns of thought that surprise us. Together, we might achieve what neither of us could alone." The sphere's surface shifted, revealing glimpses of technology beyond human understanding. But more than that, Elena sensed the Meridians' desperate hope. They had waited here, buried in the Martian depths, watching humanity's stumbling progress toward the stars, seeing something in us that we couldn't see in ourselves. "Houston," Elena said, her voice steady now despite the magnitude of what she was about to say, We're going to need a bigger team down here. First contact protocols are in effect, but I don't think any of our protocols covered anything quite like this. As if in response, the sphere pulsed brighter, and Elena felt the Meridian's approval. They had chosen well. Now the real work would begin, preparing humanity for a war we never knew was coming, learning to merge our chaotic creativity with their ancient knowledge. The future of two civilizations would depend on what happened next in this Martian cave. Elena squared her shoulders, already thinking about how to explain all this to Mission Control. The scientist in her couldn't wait to begin studying Meridian technology. The human in her hoped we would prove worthy of their trust. We have much to teach each other, the Meridian consciousness whispered in her mind, and very little time to do it. The price of knowledge. 6 months after first contact, the Meridian Archive beneath Olympus Mons had become humanity's most advanced laboratory. Dr. Elena Santos watched as her colleague, Dr. James Chen, attempted to interface with a crystalline computer terminal. His fingers traced patterns in the air, while neural sensors monitored his brainwaves. Still nothing, James sighed, removing the sensor cap. It's like trying to read a book where the letters keep rearranging themselves. Elena understood his frustration. While the Meridians had shared vast amounts of knowledge, their technology remained stubbornly resistant to human operation. The crystalline beings seemed equally puzzled by their difficulties in adapting to human methods. Your minds move in unexpected paths. The Meridian consciousness they'd named Aurora communicated. We assumed teaching you our ways would be simple. We were wrong. Maybe that's not a bad thing, Elena replied, studying the latest neural interface readings. Look at these patterns. When we try to think like you, the connection fails. But when we approach problems our way, the holographic display erupted with colors as James absently drummed his fingers on the console, his mind wandering to a piece of music he'd been composing. The Meridian systems responded to his unstructured thoughts in ways they never did to focused attempts. Fascinating, Aurora pulsed. Your natural thought patterns create harmonics we never considered possible. Before they could explore this revelation further, alarms blared throughout the facility. Elena rushed to the main chamber where the largest Meridian sphere pulsed with urgent red light. They have crossed the outer boundary. Aurora's thoughts carried undertones of fear. A scout vessel of the Void Hunters has entered your solar system. The sphere projected an image of space near Neptune. A ship moved there, if you could call it a ship. It looked more like a tear in reality, its edges constantly shifting between dimensions. How long do we have? Elena asked, already reaching for her comm to alert Earth's Defense Council. Days, perhaps. The scout moves slowly, testing defenses, but where one comes, others will follow. James studied the sensor readings with growing concern. These energy signatures, they're like nothing we've ever seen. How do we fight something that barely exists in our dimension? We fought them for millennia, Aurora responded. Our most advanced weapons could barely slow them. That is why we hid, waiting for. For what? Elena pressed, sensing hesitation in the Meridian's thoughts. For minds that could see beyond our limitations. Your species, you think in ways that should not work, yet they do. You find patterns in chaos, solutions in disorder. James laughed without humor. So no pressure. You just need us to solve a problem that stumped in civilization millions of years more advanced than us. The image of the Void Hunter scout ship rippled ominously in the holographic display. Elena noticed something odd about its movement pattern. Aurora, can you overlay the ship's trajectory with standard space traffic paths? The display shifted, showing the scout seemingly meandering through the solar system. But when compared to the routes human ships used for fuel efficiency, a pattern emerged. It's avoiding our paths, Elena realized. Not just physically. It's staying away from the mathematical patterns we use for navigation. Almost like it finds our chaos disturbing. James finished, excitement building in his voice. Their technology is even more rigid than the Meridians. They can't handle deviations from mathematical perfection. Yes, Aurora's consciousness brightened. This is why we chose your world. Not for your technology, but for your beautiful imperfection. Alina's mind raced with possibilities. Then we don't need to match their power. We need to disrupt their patterns, introduce chaos they can't process. The facility's systems hummed as James pulled up data on human space travel history. Look at our early attempts at spaceflight. By Meridian standards, they were horribly inefficient, but they worked because we kept adjusting, improvising, making it up as we went along. Alina nodded. Aurora, could your technology be modified to work the way we do things? Not perfect, but adaptable. Such modifications would go against all our design principles. Aurora hesitated. But perhaps that is exactly what we need. Warning signals flashed again. The scout ship had changed course, now moving with purpose toward the inner solar system. They had been detected. No more time for theory, Alina declared. James, get every engineer and physicist we have working on hybrid systems. If we can merge Meridian precision with human improvisation, we might just have a chance. He finished, already sending out alerts to their team. There is something else, Aurora communicated, their thoughts tinged with what felt like embarrassment. We have observed that your species often achieves breakthroughs through what you call accidents and mistakes. Alina smiled grimly. Then we'd better start making some mistakes fast. Humanity's greatest strength has always been our ability to learn from our failures. As they worked through the night, the Void Hunter Scout probed deeper into their solar system. But for the first time since encountering these dimensional predators, the Meridians felt something they had almost forgotten: hope. Perhaps the very chaos they had spent millennia trying to eliminate from their civilization would prove to be their salvation. And perhaps humanity's greatest gift to the universe would be teaching an ancient species how to embrace imperfection. Unconventional solutions. The test chamber beneath Olympus Mons looked like a mad scientist's playground. Meridian crystalline technology merged with jury-rigged human equipment in ways that made the Meridian engineers deeply uncomfortable. Dr. James Chen stood before what he affectionately called the Chaos Engine, a hybrid device that deliberately introduced random fluctuations into Meridian energy fields. This goes against all proper engineering principles. The Meridian consciousness, known as vector, pulsed with disapproval. That's kind of the point, James replied, adjusting what appeared to be a modified guitar amplifier connected to a Meridian power crystal. Sometimes you have to break the rules to break through. Dr. Alina Santos monitored the readings from a safe distance. The Void Hunter Scout ship had reached Jupiter's orbit, its dimensional distortions growing stronger as it approached. They were running out of time to find a defense that worked. Ready for Test 47, James announced. Alina, you might want to cover your ears. He struck a power cord on an electric guitar wired into the system. The sound waves, transformed by Meridian crystals and filtered through quantum field generators, created a ripple in spacetime that even the Meridians couldn't fully explain. The test target, a small piece of Void Hunter technology recovered from an ancient battlefield, shuddered. Where previous attempts with precise Meridian weapons had barely scratched it, the chaotic energy made it visibly uncomfortable, its surface rippling like disturbed water. Impossible, Vector communicated. The frequency variations are completely random, yet they're affecting the target more than our focused beams. Not random, Alina corrected, studying the readings. It's jazz. James is literally improvising with space-time. Before they could celebrate this breakthrough, alarms blared throughout the facility. The main communication sphere activated, showing Admiral Sarah Chen's grim face. The scout ship just accelerated, she reported. It's bypassed our outer defense grid and is heading straight for Mars. Time to impact. 6 hours. Alina's heart raced. We're not ready for combat deployment. The system is still unstable. When has humanity ever been ready? James interrupted, already modifying his setup. We'll have to improvise. Like your jazz, Aurora added, their consciousness joining the discussion. Perhaps that is exactly what we need. Over the next few hours, they worked furiously to scale up their prototype. Meridian power crystals were integrated with human musical instruments, creating what James called a quantum symphony. Each component was deliberately misaligned by precise amounts, creating controlled chaos that the Meridians found both fascinating and terrifying. "We're breaking every rule of physics," one of the human engineers commented. "No," Elena corrected. "We're writing new ones, or maybe just discovering that the rules were never as rigid as we thought." The Void Hunter ship entered Mars' orbit exactly as predicted. Its dimensional distortions began to tear at the fabric of space around the planet, testing for weaknesses. The creature inside probably expected to find the same orderly resistance it had encountered from the Meridians for millennia. Instead, it found jazz. The first blast from the Chaos engine hit the ship like a thunderclap in vacuum. Quantum harmonics, deliberately out of phase and guided by human intuition rather than computer precision, created patterns that the Void Hunter sensors couldn't process. "Its dimensional field is destabilizing," Vector reported, monitoring the battle through Meridian sensors. "But this makes no sense. The attack pattern has no logical structure." "That's because James is soloing," Elena grinned, watching her colleague essentially play a guitar duel with an interdimensional entity. Each riff sent new waves of chaos through the hybrid weapon system, keeping the Void Hunter off balance. The alien ship tried to compensate, its own weapons forming perfect geometric patterns in space. But against the quantum equivalent of improvisational jazz, perfect geometry was a weakness, not a strength. Where it expected order, it found chaos. Where it looked for patterns to counter, it found human creativity. Finally, caught in a web of contradicting frequencies, the scout ship's dimensional field collapsed. For a brief moment, it became fully solid in normal space, and that's when the conventional weapons of Earth's defense fleet struck. The ship shattered like glass, its fragments dissolving into quantum foam. In the aftermath, humans and Meridians gathered to analyze what had happened. The victory was significant, but they all knew it was just the beginning. The scout would have sent signals to the main fleet. "We must prepare," Aurora pulsed. "They will come in greater numbers, and they will adapt." "Let them adapt," James said, already sketching modifications to the Chaos engine. "The thing about jazz is that every performance is different. By the time they figure out how to counter one pattern, we'll have improvised 3 more. Elena studied the sensor readings from the battle, seeing something deeper in the data. "Aurora, you said you chose Earth because we think differently. But that's not the whole truth, is it? There's something about human consciousness itself that the Void Hunters can't handle." The Meridian consciousness flickered thoughtfully. "Perhaps. Your minds are quantum systems that embrace uncertainty, that find stability in chaos. You may be the first species we've encountered that operates on the same fundamental principles as the universe itself." "No pressure," James quipped, but his eyes were serious. "How long until the main fleet arrives?" "Weeks, at most. They will come with technologies we have never seen, weapons that tear at the foundations of reality." "Then we'd better start composing," Elena said, looking at the hybrid machine that had brought down a seemingly invincible enemy. "And this time, we're going to need a whole orchestra." As they began preparations for the larger battle to come, Elena couldn't help but smile at the irony. Humanity's greatest contribution to saving the galaxy might not be our technology or our weapons, but our ability to make beautiful music out of chaos itself. The battle for Sol. The main display in Earth's Combined Defense Command showed thousands of Void Hunter ships emerging from dimensional rifts beyond Neptune's orbit. Each vessel rippled with impossible geometries, their very presence distorting the fabric of space-time. Admiral Sarah Chen watched the invasion force approach, her expression grim but determined. "All defense grid stations, report readiness," she ordered. Around the solar system, humanity's last line of defense waited. Traditional military satellites had been retrofitted with Meridian crystals and human chaos technology. Each station was staffed by an unlikely combination of soldiers, musicians, and quantum physicists. The Meridians had called it madness. Humanity called it innovation. Dr. Elena Santos stood at a hybrid control console, monitoring the quantum harmonics across the defense network. Beside her, James Chen conducted final checks on what they now called the Symphony Grid, hundreds of linked chaos engines, each tuned to respond to human creativity rather than computer logic. Fleet approaching Jupiter's orbit, a sensor operator announced. Their formation, it's perfect. Too perfect. Elena studied the enemy's approach. The Void Hunters moved with mathematical precision that would have impressed even the Meridians. Every ship maintained exact distances. Every maneuver followed flawless geometric patterns. It was beautiful in a terrifying way. "They're scanning us," James reported, "looking for patterns to counter." "Let them look." Aurora's consciousness resonated through the meridian crystals integrated into the command center. "They will find only chaos." Admiral Chen nodded to her communications officer. "Send the signal. Operation Discord begins now." Across the solar system, human operators engaged their stations, but they weren't following traditional battle plans. Instead, each station began broadcasting its own unique quantum signature, guided by human intuition and creativity. Jazz musicians improvised through quantum interfaces, their music translated into weapons fire. Artists shaped defensive fields with virtual reality brushstrokes. Poets spoke words that rippled through space-time itself. The Void Hunters encountered something they had never faced in millennia of conquest, a defense that refused to make sense. "First contact in 3 minutes," Elena announced. "James, initiate the primary sequence." James grinned and raised his hands over his Modify console. Time to conduct the Apocalypse Symphony. The first wave of Void Hunter ships hit the outer defense perimeter. They expected to find organized resistance, patterns they could analyze and counter. Instead, they found what could only be described as quantum jazz fusion. Each human operator contributed their own chaos to the symphony, creating a web of unpredictable energy that the perfectly ordered Void Hunter ships couldn't process. "They're trying to adapt," Elena observed, watching the enemy formation shift. Breaking into smaller units, each attempting different approach vectors. "Good," Admiral Chen smiled grimly. "That means they're starting to think like us." Phase 2. The Symphony Grid shifted frequencies. Now hundreds of human operators worked in conscious discord, deliberately avoiding patterns or repetition. The meridian crystals amplified their chaos, turning the space around Earth into a maelstrom of quantum uncertainty. Void Hunter ships began to falter. Their perfect formations wavered as they encountered pockets of space that behaved according to human logic rather than universal constants. Some ships tried to compensate by becoming even more rigid in their movements, making them more vulnerable to the chaotic attacks. "Remarkable," Aurora communicated. "They cannot adapt because their very nature requires order. Your chaos is not merely a weapon. It is anathema to their existence." But the Void Hunters weren't defeated yet. The larger ships in their fleet began to pulse with new energy signatures, attempting to impose their own order on space itself. Reality groaned under the strain of competing forces. "We're losing stations in the outer grid," James reported. "Their counterattack is too perfect, too powerful." Elena studied the battle data, her mind racing. "Then we need to be less perfect. Admiral, what if we deliberately desynchronize the entire network?" "That would collapse our defensive coverage," a Meridian tactical officer protested. "Exactly," Elena said. "Right now we're still thinking too much like a traditional military force. We need to embrace chaos completely." Admiral Chen considered for only a moment before nodding. "Do it." Elena and James worked quickly, instructing all stations to break their remaining synchronization. Each operator was now free to act completely independently, guided only by their own creativity and instinct. The result was pure chaos, a quantum storm of human imagination unleashed across space. The Void Hunters' perfect formations shattered. Their attempts to impose order on the battlefield only made them more vulnerable to the unpredictable attacks. Ships that had survived millions of years of conventional warfare found themselves torn apart by weapons that followed no logic they could comprehend. Main fleet is in full retreat, the sensor operator reported, disbelief in his voice. They're running from us. The command center erupted in cheers, but Alina noticed something odd in the sensor readings. The way the Void Hunters retreated, it wasn't just tactical withdrawal. They showed signs of genuine fear. Now you understand. Aurora's thoughts carried a hint of awe. This is why we waited so long. Why we chose your world. The Void Hunters are beings of pure order. And you are children of chaos itself. Your very existence threatens theirs. As the last enemy ships disappeared into dimensional rifts, Admiral Chen turned to Alina. Will they be back? Alina shook her head, still studying the retreat patterns. I don't think so. We didn't just defeat them. We showed them something they'd never seen before. A species that doesn't just survive in chaos, but thrives in it. The implications of their victory were still sinking in. Humanity hadn't just saved Earth. They had demonstrated a new way of existing in the universe, one that embraced uncertainty and found strength in imperfection. There will be much to discuss, Aurora communicated. Your victory here will ripple across galaxies. Other species will want to learn your ways. James laughed, powering down his chaos-enhanced console. Wait until we teach them about rock and roll. The future suddenly looked very different. Humanity would venture into space not just as another spacefaring species, but as teachers of a philosophy that could reshape civilization itself. All because we dared to break the rules, to find harmony in discord, and to make music out of the chaos of existence itself. Legacy of Two Worlds. 1 year after the Battle of Sol, the Meridian Archive beneath Olympus Mons had transformed. Where once crystalline technology maintained perfect geometric patterns, now hybrid structures grew in beautiful chaos, merging human creativity with ancient knowledge. Dr. Elena Santos watched a group of students, human and meridian consciousness, merged through neural interfaces as they learned to manipulate quantum fields through musical improvisation. Still hard to believe sometimes, Dr. James Chen said, joining her at the observation window. A year ago, they would have called this sacrilege. Elena nodded, remembering how rigid the meridians had been when first awakened. Now their consciousness flowed through hybrid systems with an almost childlike sense of discovery, learning to embrace imperfection as a strength rather than a weakness. We spent millennia perfecting our civilization, Aurora communicated, their presence filling the chamber with gentle light, only to discover that perfection itself was our limitation. The main display activated, showing ships departing Earth's orbit. But these weren't human vessels. They were meridian ships, their once precise crystalline forms now incorporating organic curves and asymmetrical patterns. The first diplomatic missions to other surviving meridian enclaves, carrying the message that would reshape galactic civilization. How many hidden outposts have responded to our signal? Elena asked. 17 so far, Aurora replied, each containing thousands of my people, waiting in stasis like we were. Each now awakening to a universe transformed by human chaos. James laughed. Still can't believe that's actually our official designation now. Humanity. Engineers of Chaos. The title had been bestowed by a council of awakened Meridian elders, acknowledging humanity's unique contribution to universal understanding. Where other species sought to impose order on chaos, humans had learned to surf its currents, finding patterns in randomness and strength in uncertainty. The first hybrid colony ships are almost ready, Elena noted, checking her tablet. Crews of humans and Meridians would soon venture out together, seeking new worlds and new civilizations, but not to conquer or impose order. Instead, they would teach others how to embrace their own unique forms of chaos. There is something we have not yet shared, Aurora communicated, their consciousness showing hints of what Elena had learned to recognize as embarrassment. The full truth of why we chose Earth. Elena turned from the window, sensing the importance of the moment. We know you were looking for allies against the Void Hunters. That was part of it. But in our long sleep, studying your species as you evolved, we discovered something remarkable. Aurora projected a complex quantum equation into the air. This pattern exists in all conscious species, a sort of signature of awareness itself. James studied the equation. I recognize parts of this from our early neural interface work. Yes, but look at the human variant. Another equation appeared, similar but with subtle differences. Your consciousness naturally operates in quantum superposition, where other species, including we Meridians, try to collapse reality into defined states. Human minds exist comfortably in multiple states simultaneously. That's why we can improvise so effectively, Elena realized. We're not fighting against the universe's fundamental nature. We're expressing it. Exactly. You are not merely chaos engineers. You are the universe's natural response to excessive order. The embodiment of quantum uncertainty itself. The implications were staggering. Humanity hadn't just gotten lucky in defeating the Void Hunters. We were, in some fundamental way, the opposite of their perfectly ordered existence. Our very consciousness was a key to unlocking new possibilities in the universe. So what happens now? James asked, watching another group of students. Human children teaching young Meridian consciousnesses how to play. Their quantum fields intermingling in ways that created spontaneous beauty. Now we learn from each other, Aurora replied. We have knowledge gathered over millions of years. You have the ability to use it in ways we never imagined. Together, we will find a balance between order and chaos, between precision and creativity. Elena smiled, remembering that first moment in the Martian cave when she discovered the Meridian sphere. How far they'd come since then. From first contact to saving the galaxy through applied chaos theory and quantum jazz. The universe is stranger and more wonderful than we ever imagined, she said, watching the hybrid ships prepare for their journeys to the stars. And we're just getting started. Indeed, Aurora agreed. You have taught us that true wisdom lies not in seeking perfection, but in embracing imperfection. That strength comes not from imposing order, but from dancing with chaos. As if to emphasize the point, a student's quantum manipulation exercise went slightly wrong, creating a shower of harmless but beautiful quantum sparks that danced through the chamber. Instead of correcting the mistake, the Meridian instructor encouraged the student to explore the unexpected effect, to see what new discoveries might emerge from the accident. That's the real legacy, isn't it? James observed. Not just defeating the Void Hunters, but showing that there's another way to exist. That chaos and order aren't opponents. They're partners in a cosmic dance. The future stretched out before them, full of possibilities that neither humans nor Meridians could have imagined separately. New technologies born from the marriage of precision and improvisation. New forms of art that manipulated the quantum fabric of reality itself. New ways of thinking that would reshape civilization across the galaxy. Humanity had found its place in the cosmos, not as conquerors or perfect beings, but as teachers of beautiful chaos, showing other species how to break free from the limitations of pure order. And the Meridians, their ancient wisdom now revitalized by human creativity, would help guide that transformation. Together, they would write a new chapter in the story of consciousness itself, not through perfect plans or flawless execution, but through the wonderful, unpredictable, gloriously chaotic art of existence. The children of chaos have awakened, Aurora communicated, their thoughts filled with joy and anticipation. And the dance is just beginning.